Miss Nancy here at Azle Memorial Library in the beautiful Western section today to share with you a great selection of new young adult books that have come through. It was too windy outside, so we had to come in. So I'm going to show you my first book, just the cover because the book is checked out. It is called One by Sarah Crossan. The cover is so cool. It's this lace doll cutout kind of thing. And it falls into what I call the teen illness genre that kind of exploded when John Green's The Fault in Our Stars became so popular. So this is a nice addition to it. It is about a pair of twins, Tippy and Grace, but they're not your usual twins. They are conjoined, and they share everything in their body below the hip. They're two very different people, as you will learn, because Grace tells the story, and from her perspective, they are night and day. Their family is not well off. Their father has lost his job and has turned to alcohol, and their mother is never really around because she's working extra hours at her job to try to help the family economically. They have a sister named Dragon, which is kind of an unusual name, and she wants to be a premier ballerina, but she can't afford to go to ballet camp. So she struggles and struggles with that, and she's also developing anorexia as a result of her desire to be the best ballerina in the whole wide world. So things get very interesting when the twins begin to attend a private high school. They had always been homeschooled, and right about the middle of high school, they go into a private high school on scholarship. The people there think of them and call them freaks, except for two friends whom they make, who help them navigate the world of private high school, but in the end, those two friends destroy them emotionally. There is a bout with the flu, and after they get over the flu, Grace becomes seriously ill. And so the only option is separation, the separation operation. And that is, as we know, very expensive and very, very risky. One of them could die, or both of them could die. So they don't know what to do. They wrestle with the idea, well, should we be part of a reality TV show where we can earn money to pay for the operation? Should we not do anything knowing that we are both going to die? Or should we take the risk of the operation? There is a lot of tension there, and it kept me just reading and reading and reading. I loved the format of this story because it was a novel in verse, and I think that format really helps you get into the heart and emotions of a character. And we could go through Grace's just innermost thoughts. They are both searching for the Holy Grail, which is being normal, and they know they're never going to find it, but they try just the same. This was a quick read, but it was a riveting read. I couldn't put it down. And at the end, Crossan gives some facts about conjoined twins, which I didn't know, and it was very interesting to read about that part of humanity. So try One by Sarah Crossan when it comes back in. It's already being checked out. My next book is also a teen illness book in one way, and it's called Untwine, a novel by Edwidge Danticut. Now this is another twin book, but these twins are not conjoined. They're identical, Isabel and Giselle. And the book opens with this horrific car accident where Isabel is killed, and Mom, Dad, and Giselle end up in the hospital with major injuries, especially Giselle. She has a long recovery ahead of her. There's also a case of mistaken identity. Because they're so identical, everybody at first thinks it's Giselle that has died and not Isabel. So it's a problem for Giselle to try to convince them that she is who she says she is. The police also don't think that it was an accident, and so there's a mystery there. So Giselle and her family are left to grieve, and this is a story about letting go of your dreams, your plans for your family, about letting go of your twin, and letting go of everything else. Giselle, she wrestles with survivor's guilt. What if I hadn't taken so long to get ready for the concert kind of thing? Would we have been in the same place at the same time? And Danticat weaves a very nice mix of Mexican and Caribbean art and music throughout the story, and I loved it because it was beautiful, and it fit right in because Giselle's family is from Haiti. What I really loved about this story was the family aspect. Everybody is loving. There are loving aunts and uncles. Mom and dad are about to separate in their marriage before the accident, but after the accident occurs, they set that all aside to take care of Giselle. Lots of other people there that care about them, doctors, friends, everyone is caring, and that's not very usual in young adult books, and I really liked that. The mystery of the accident is solved by two of Giselle's friends, and it was a very interesting extra piece to this story. And while they are solving this mystery, they start to rethink their plans for their future. So the accident just didn't affect Giselle's family. It affected more people than that. It moves kind of slow, which was a nice change of pace for me, and it kind of mirrored Giselle's very, very slow recovery, and I liked that about it. We got to see her inner thoughts and her inner life and how she examines it. The ending is just beautiful. It's back in Haiti, and we see the contrast of wealth and poverty there, and we also see rainbows, so there's a lot of hopefulness. So try Untwine by Edwidge Danticat. Another YA genre that has always been there, but is just exploding now, is historical fiction. And if you haven't tried YA historical fiction, I hope these two books will get you to do that. The first one I'm going to present to you is called Walk on Earth, a Stranger by Ray Carson. And I love the cover. It's beautiful with these coppers and golds. This is a tale of it's kind of got a paranormal twist to it. So those of you who aren't familiar with historical fiction but love paranormal will like this. This is a young girl. She has the power to sense gold by kind of smelling it, sensing it through where it is in the ground or where it is in somebody's belongings. And Carson blends that with the history of the California and the Georgia gold rushes in the 19th century. And I didn't even know there was a gold rush in Georgia. So that was kind of interesting to learn. So the girl's name is Leah, and right in the beginning of the book, her mother and father are murdered by her very, very greedy uncle. He intends to kind of enslave her and use her power to enrich himself. So she will find the gold and he will keep it and keep the money. So she escapes, and she tries to get away from him, and she heads west on a wagon train to California. This is 1849. So the title of the book comes from an 18th century hymn that is still sung today. It's called Come Thy Fount of Every Blessing, and there's many, many versions of that song, but one version has a passage that talks about wandering the earth like a stranger, and you can only find rest in Jesus Christ. Well, Leah herself just doesn't fit. She doesn't feel she belongs anywhere, and she feels like she's walking around on earth just this total stranger, which becomes because of her powers and also because she has to disguise herself as a boy for the journey, because women in those days were not allowed to travel alone. So most everything that would happen on a wagon train happens in this story. You have starvation, you have thirst, you have injuries, you have fear, you have death, you have childbirth, the whole ball of wax. You have encounters with Indians, although it's the trading kind, trading for objects, and not the attacking kind of Indians. The landscape and the environment are woven into the story, and they're just beautiful, but you also understand the harshness of the frontier and how it was very hard for a wagon train to make it all the way west. We also see what army forts were like in those days. It wasn't easy to make it across country, and as a woman it was doubly hard. And I think this story gives young women today an idea of what it was like to be female in the 19th century, where you were actually looked upon as an object or a possession, and you were not allowed to make your own way or choose your own path in life. Leah, along the way, saves the lives of many people through her power and through other means. But when she's finally revealed as a girl, some people on the wagon train just change their whole mind about her and think she's terrible, which I found fascinating. Along the journey, she also has a friend from home. His name is Jefferson, and he is escaping his abusive father. He is going in disguise as well. And they have sort of a budding romance, but what I loved about this was it was not an ooey-gooey romance. And anybody who knows me knows that I hate ooey-gooey romances in books. And I thought that Carson was very true to the time, because when you're on a wagon train just trying to survive day by day, hour by hour, you do not have time to pine away and bat your eyelashes. Leah's gold powers come in very handy toward the end of the trip. And her greedy and murderous Uncle Hiram actually shows up in California looking for her, so we get a hint that this is not going to be the end of this story. I have a little note, I kept a little note. I wanted to also say that there's an author's note at the end where Carson talks about some minor characters in the story who were actual historical figures, and the fact that she meticulously researched all the facts about what a journey west would be like and how people lived in those days. So if you've never gotten into YA historical fiction, I invite you to try Walk on Earth, a Stranger. And if you love historical fiction, you will love this book, Walk on Earth, a Stranger by Ray Carson. The next historical fiction book I have goes a little bit into more modern, not more modern times, but further into history. We're going to the beginnings of the 20th century. And this is called The Hired Girl. There's a 14-year-old farm girl named Joan. She escapes the prescription for her life that her father has set down. She's 14 years old. She's no longer going to go to school, no longer going to read books. She's no longer going to learn anything. She's going to take care of Daddy, and that's about it. So she wants to find her own path in life. Her mother is dead, and she escapes. And she lands in Baltimore, and she is out on the street alone, doesn't know where to go, and she is rescued by a young man whose mother hires her as a parlor maid. This is a Jewish household that keeps kosher, with a culture very far removed from Joan's rural Catholic upbringing. So there is a lot in here about anti-Semitism, and there's also, and the persecution of Jews in the early part of the 20th century, and there's also a lot about prejudice amongst all cultures and all religions and all races, and I thought that was a really good way to tell the story. Joan changes her name to Janet, so Joan/Janet has a lot to learn, and she makes an awful lot of mistakes. This story is told in diary entries, which is a nice format for it, and as we read, we find out that Joan has read some classic books like Jane Eyre and different ones like that, and she sort of believes that what's in those books is real. So she pulls all these romantic notions out of these books, and she tries to act like the characters in the novel. She's forever meddling in people's lives, taking things from novels like, if I do this, then this will happen and all will be well, only it doesn't work like that in real life. She butts heads with the parish priest, she butts heads with the mistress of the house, with the cook in the house, and she meddles in the love life of one of the sons, to much disaster. I loved the voice of this story because this is a 14-year-old girl who doesn't have street smarts, is very inexperienced, and who has rose-colored glasses on, and she has to learn everything the hard way. She's always looking for that silver lining, and she doesn't much think about how she's going to act. She just kind of acts impulsively. And that felt so true because she's confused, but she's hardworking and she's completely real. She wants everything, as I said, she wants everything to go like a novel and end happily, and it doesn't. At one point she talks of being exhausted just like a woman in a painting that she knows about. So her way of telling the story is very true to the period in terms of her style of writing. So some readers might have a little bit of a challenge to get used to that type of early 20th century writing because it's very formal. My favorite character in this book was the family's daughter, Mirelle. She's very young, but she's headstrong and she loves to speak the truth. She is more modern than anybody else in the book. And Joan, on the other hand, she's got to lie to keep her position. She tells lies all the time. And I spent a lot of time just shaking my head at her romanticism, however true to her age it was. This is another very well-researched historical fiction story, and I hope you will like it as much as I did. The Hired Girl by Laura Amy Schlitz. Now we're going to get into some more realistic fiction, YA fiction. And this book I have for you is called Goodbye Stranger. It's by Rebecca Stead, who normally writes middle grade books like Liar and Spy and When You Reach Me, which have been very, very successful and very well done. This one is a story about middle school, and it's very simply and elegantly told. The character is Bridge, and she nearly lost her life when she was in 3rd grade, and she carries a lot of physical scars of that experience. She has some lifelong friends who are changing just as she is, and we all know middle school is the time for change. And the story revolves around how these kids navigate all those changes, all the hills and all the valleys. These kids are still kids, and yet sometimes they try to act like adults, and they're in that middle zone land between childhood and upper high school. So Bridge and her friends kind of seesaw between acting young and acting old. And the writing is simple enough for 5th and 6th graders, but there's some thematic content, mostly around sexting, which puts it right really more appropriately for middle school. I particularly like the development of Bridges and this boy Sherm's relationship, because Sherm is discovering himself too as well. Her friend Vinnie from her younger days, she finds out, is really a pretty mean girl, except for only one time. And these kids try to protect each other from their mistakes, but mistakes they will make. Sherm is also dealing with the fact that his grandfather just up and walked out on his grandmother after 50 years of marriage, and he can't understand that at all. No one can. And he harbors a lot of anger toward his grandfather as a result. The flow of this book is very slow and steady. The high drama, what I really liked about this was that the high drama that is always part of middle school is tempered by Rebecca Stead's talent. She can show you that drama, but she will make sure that it doesn't overwhelm you and overwhelm the story. And that's what I liked. The title of the book refers to that process of letting go of your younger self, who then, as you grow older, becomes kind of a stranger to you. And you accept your older self. So, Goodbye Stranger by Rebecca Stead. I loved this book. My next one is going to be a really super quick review because you have to read 4 other books before you get to this book. Many, many, many young adults really embraced Neal Shusterman's Unwind Dystology. And I thought after the 4th book that was the end of it. But no, he came out with a new book called Unbound, and this is a little different. It's actually a collection of stories by Schusterman, a couple of his sons, and some other author collaborators that tell stories about before and after and during the events of the Unwind time. So those of us who are mesmerized by that world that Schusterman built in those first 4 books, this is just like, I felt it was just like icing on the cake. We meet Cam, we meet Risa, we meet Connor, we meet Nelson, and many others again. We find out how Risa came to be where she was when we first met her. We learn how Cam has assisted the rewinds after most of the world has rejected the Unwind Accord. And you will definitely need to read the first 4 books before you read this one. There's lots of twists and turns, unexpected decisions, and I loved hearing the other authors' voices in these stories while they still stayed true to Neal Shusterman's world. So after you read the Unwind Dystology, try Unbound by Neal Shusterman. So the next book I have is set in modern times, but it's more of a paranormal book. It's called The Accident Season by Moira Fowley-Doyle, and it's set in Ireland, and it follows a family that seems to be cursed to be injured and or killed all through the month of October in any calendar year. So there's this mysterious family legend that has grown up about this. Nobody knows how it got started, nobody knows where it came from, nobody knows who put the curse on them, but Kara and her ex-stepbrother and her mother go to all kinds of lengths to protect themselves during October so they don't get hurt. Her father supposedly has died in one of the October months because of the curse, but her older sister Alice is having none of this. She does not believe in the curse. She does not believe that they are getting injured because of it. She gets injured herself, but she doesn't believe it. As the story unfolds, so does the truth. Kara is also looking for an old school friend named Elsie. And Elsie supposedly runs a secrets booth in the high school library. And the secrets booth is a place where kids can go and they write down a secret that they really don't want anybody to know, or a feeling or an emotion. They leave it there, and then this girl Elsie supposedly puts them up around the school so everybody can read them. You can unburden yourself, but no one will know it's you. However, Elsie's never in the secrets booth. Nobody knows where she lives. Nobody knows what classes she's in. And Kara is trying to find her. Her friends, like Bee, are very believable. And Alice is very believable. I loved they came up with a Halloween party in an abandoned old mansion, kind of rickety ghost housey kind of place. And that was all very believable and very cool to read, especially the part about the last minute arrangements and decisions, because that's what high school students do. And I loved that this book connects Ireland's deep attachment to the paranormal and ghosty things with a coming of age story. The writing of this book takes us deeper and deeper into a dark mystery, the truth of this family. But we do end up with light at the end. So this is Fowler-Doyle's first novel, and it was so well written that I am really looking forward to seeing more from her in the future. So try The Accident Season by Moira Fowley-Doyle. And finally, I have one more book, and it's a very sobering book, but I think also very important. It's called Violent Ends, a novel in 17 points of view. It's a very timely, topical, ripped out of the headlines sort of thing. And it's kind of like One Death, Nine Stories, except with a twist. This is about one person named Kirby Matheson, from the point of view of 16 different people in one inanimate object, which I found very, very interesting. And the stories are written by all kinds of YA authors, including Neil Shusterman and Beth Revis and Cynthia Lettich Smith and a lot of others that I wasn't familiar with, which I liked because I liked seeing how they wrote. But it's about a kid who shoots up a school and then commits suicide, much like what we've seen in the news. But is it only about Kirby? Kirby has become that all too familiar murderer, suicide person. But as each story unfolds, we see a portrait of the person connected to Kirby, or the thing connected to Kirby, and how he, she, or it touched Kirby. And how perhaps a different decision by that person might have changed things. How they might have saved many lives. Some of the stories are told in third person, some of them are told in first person, but all are very powerful, and all of them raise a lot of questions, including whether their decisions had a role in Kirby's decision to shoot up a school. I would recommend this because of the nature of the thematic content. I would recommend it for upper level high school students. What I took from this book was the very real notion that we are all connected in some way. There's a character named Lauren in one of the stories that even her mother is culpable in this massacre. Even little Susanna, who's a little girl, 5 years old, who appears in the first story, is culpable. I also walked away with the understanding that, as one of the characters puts it, you never really know another person. Kirby is a very complicated boy. While we're always quick to box people in that do these kinds of things and try to analyze everything and assign a label to that person, just so we can make sense and move on, the truth is a lot deeper than that. Kirby is a nice kid. He really was a nice kid. He did a very horrible thing. But his essence was that of a caring guy. And so how do you hold both those notions in your mind at once? Well, you box it up and you put it away and you don't think about it. So this makes you think. Violence Ends is the kind of book you read in order to try to understand what is happening in churches and schools and clinics and community centers and theaters all the time that we see on the news. And perhaps you will be able to ask yourself the question, how can we prevent this? I don't know if we can ever come up with the answer, but this will lead us to some deeper understandings about the people that do this. So it's called Violent Ends, a novel in 17 points of view, and all kinds of great, great authors were writing in this book. And that's all I have for you today. Stop back another time to see what we have, and enjoy your YA literature. Bye.